diving into a case that shocked the world and cast a dark shadow over a tropical paradise. What began as a dream getaway turned into a nightmare. Let's get started. Today is September 15th, 2014 in Koh Tao, Thailand. The sun just came up and it's a nice day. The air is sticky, but there's a cool breeze from the ocean that makes everyone feel better. A lot of people are going to Sairee Beach. They put down their beach towels and are lying in the sun. They're having a great time while listening to the waves nearby slowly crash. Some people are even drinking pina coladas and taking in the view. People are all over the place, tourists, locals, and even reporters. Doesn't the scene look like a break from your dreams? There is another group of people at the same spot, though, and they don't look like they're dressed for a holiday. They're not wearing bathing suits or swim shorts. They are dressed like police officers. There was a crime right in the middle of the beach where a lot of people were. There are people drinking drinks and lying out in the sun right where 2 bodies have been found. So the whole crime scene is now dirty. Hannah Witheridge was a 23-year-old English woman from Hemsby who loved to go on random trips and backpack. It made sense for her to go to the University of East Anglia and get a degree in education because she wanted to work with kids in the field of education. She wasn't done yet, though. She then got into the University of Essex and began her graduate studies in speech and language therapy. Hannah really wanted to be a teacher for young kids, and she especially wanted to work with kids who were disabled or did not have many benefits. Before Hannah could really jump into the field of teaching, though, she chose to take a quiet vacation. Hannah packed her things and booked a flight to Thailand on August 25, 2014. She was going to Koh Tao, which is a popular tourist spot for people from all over the world. Hannah knew how to backpack before she went. She liked the idea and wanted to see more of Thailand, while taking a much-needed break from school. So she went to Koh Tao with 3 friends. They were excited to have a great time. Hannah and her friends planned to have a fun night out at AC Bar on September 14, 2014. They would drink, eat, and have a good time. This pub was a popular spot for tourists. On Saturday, there were a lot of people in the bar. That's where Hannah met another stranger. His name was David Miller. The island of Jersey, which is between England and France, is where David Miller was born. David was 24 years old at the time. His family and friends said he was a very interesting person. David had been in Australia for a while because he was an intern for a mining business. He was on his way home when he stopped in Thailand to take a short break with some friends. Turtle Island, or Koh Tao, is in the Gulf of Thailand. It is the smallest of the 3 islands in that area. About 8,000 people live on Koh Tao, which is about 8 square miles in size. That being said, Koh Tao is both beautiful and peaceful, and it is also home to Burmese people. That sounds great, but they were there illegally. They were not supposed to be here, but they paid Thai police a couple hundred baht a month to let them stay because there were more job opportunities in Koh Tao than in Myanmar. It was harder than you thought to figure out who the Burmese workers were because they lived with friends and family. They fit right in with the other people in the area. Koh Tao was very safe, though. Even though there was a lot of immigration crime, there hadn't been any violent crimes on the island in 8 years, which may not sound like much, but it's an amazing record for a tourist spot like this. But just because something didn't happen 8 years ago doesn't mean it will never happen again. Sadly, Hannah and David's vacation, which was supposed to be a relaxing getaway, turned out to be the exact opposite. We now know that David and Hannah did not know each other before they got to Koh Tao. Some sources say they met at their hotel, while others say they met at a local bar. Either way, our story starts at the AC Bar, where David and Hannah had already met and liked each other. People from all over the world were in this pub, and everyone looked like they were having a great time. Hannah and David's night out went on until after midnight. At around 1 a.m., CCTV video showed the 2 of them leaving the bar together without their friends. This is the last video of the 2 tourists. Between 4 and 5 a.m. the next morning, David and Hannah's badly beaten bodies would be found on Sairee Beach, having only partly undressed. For people who live there, this may seem like a sudden change in the story. But this is exactly how things happened. It looked like everything was okay, but then it wasn't. The crime scene was found by a dumb beach cleaner who saw the bodies while he was walking by. One body was in the water, and the other was on the beach. A pile of clothes was nearby, and it didn't take long for people to figure out that Hannah and David's clothes were in it. The bodies were discovered 30 m from the Ocean View bungalows, where Hannah, David, and their friends were living. There were 20 m between the bodies. People in the area rushed to pull the body out of the water because they were afraid that the rising tide would wash it away. The Thai police were called right away. The scene at the beach, which was otherwise beautiful, was very sad. They got there really late, around 11 a.m., and started their first investigation. It had been about 5 or 6 hours by this point. The first thing they did was look around the crime scene to see if they could find anything strange. Near the woman's body, the cops found a couple of burned cigarette ends and a used birth control pill, but they were also able to find the possible murder tools. Yes, I meant more than one. There was more than one murder tool. First, a hoe was discovered next to the bodies. It had red lines and smudges all over it, making it look like it had been used to hit the victims. A wooden stick was found in the same state close to the bodies, and the police took both of them to test for DNA. It didn't take the police long to come up with names for the victims. Thus, the next step, dead bodies were found on land and in the water. The body in the water was recognized as 24-year-old David Miller. 2 foreign tourists who had met the night before and become friends on the spot were no longer together. They were found at the beach dead, shamed and thrown away, which is terrible. However, the autopsy reports were even worse when they came out. Hannah and David were both hit in the head several times with something heavy. They were badly hurt on the heads and faces. It was found that David had a lot of water in his lungs, which could only mean one thing. His body had not been swept away by the water. He died because he drowned. On the other hand, Hannah's autopsy showed that she had been abused severely, which is so sad. DNA was taken from both of the victims' bodies and sent to be tested. However, DNA wasn't tested on the clothes. The people in the area did a great job of blocking the piers, so the criminal couldn't get away on a boat while the cops were looking into this horrible crime scene. When there is a lot of DNA proof, and not many people to look at, you would think that Thai police would be able to solve the case and give the victims justice. That couldn't have happened, though, because the Thai agents messed up this whole investigation. You decide if they did it on purpose or by accident. There's a lot more to come. The island of Koh Tao didn't have a very high crime rate, but the local police station only had 6 officers on duty for emergency calls. It may seem like a small number, and it is, but if serious crimes don't happen here, then you don't need too many police officers wasting tax money on nothing. Now, though, this is where the real trouble starts. The police didn't tape off the area when they got to the crime scene. People, tourists, and even reporters were able to visit a crime scene where 2 people had died. A lot of people were moving around and making a mess of places where proof might have been. People in the area were so rude that they took pictures of the bodies and the crime scene and put them online. Just the thought that the officers didn't even try to hide the bodies is sad. People who knew David and Hannah found these pictures, which is how they learned that their loved ones had been brutally attacked and killed while on vacation. When the police were looking for suspects and people of interest, they mostly targeted tourists, people traveling from other countries, and people who were in the country illegally. The police spokesman said that this would never do something so horrible, and they were on a mission to catch any foreigner they could find. Everyone was questioned, and everyone but the locals was thought to be guilty. The friends of Hannah and David were questioned. Others from other countries were questioned. And because of this mess, a search was started for a British person from another country who lived with David. Investigators were sure that David's flatmate did it, but I don't know why or how they knew that. Investigators called it a crime of passion because they thought the flatmate liked David. But when he saw David with Hannah, he lost his temper and killed them both. However, as soon as this idea was put forward, it fell apart because there was no evidence to back it up. The British tourist was finally free to leave. In the meantime, The cops also did a large-scale DNA test, which involved taking swabs from almost 200 people on the island. The fact that most of the people the police were looking into were illegal aliens was interesting. But no matter what, when pictures of the crime scene on Koh Tao were shared on social media, it scared people all over the world, which was terrible for the touristy island, so that the news would stop and the island's name would be saved. The case had to be solved quickly. If people find out that Turtle Island is now being called Death Island, it won't be good for the tourist business. To close this case as quickly as possible, the cops were in a hurry. To give you some background, Thailand's main source of income was from tourism. This event hurt the island's name and image in the eyes of the rest of the world. Killers were on the run on an island and killing tourists. No one would want to go there. Most likely, no one. This is why the Prime Minister kept the Thai police chief's number handy in the weeks after the terrible event. The Thai Prime Minister at the time would call the police chief almost every day to find out what was going on with the investigation and to find out if the killer or killers had been punished. Yet the cops were under a lot of pressure from the Prime Minister to solve this case quickly. The investigators did the most obvious thing they could have. They looked at CCTV footage of the bar and the places around it. You might think that there would be a lot of CCTV cameras all over an island like Koh Tao where there hasn't been a crime in 8 years. There were, but some of them didn't work. And the detectives didn't stop to check all of the ones that did. But they did look at a certain camera near the bar. 3 guys were caught on camera riding a motorbike to 7-Eleven on the same night that Hannah and David were killed. They bought beer and cigarettes and then went to Sairee Beach. The names of these 3 guys were given as Mao, Waifio, and Zar Lin. All of them were illegally coming from Burma. The police finally found a clue. When they first asked Mao about it, he said that he had driven with the 2 guys and then left them to go somewhere else on his motorbike. This was before the killings. Mao then said that the 2 guys were sound asleep when he got home. The next day, the police questioned Zorin. It was strange that they were more interested in how he got to Koh Tao without permission than in how he killed David and Hannah. He did, however, have permission to work on Koh Tao Island. But Zorin was still a Burmese immigrant who wasn't supposed to be there. He was caught and the motorbike was taken away from him. YFIO, the second man, wasn't anywhere on the island. The police thought he flew away on a boat. So the cops found him and finally arrested Wio on October 2nd, 2014. Wio and Zor Lin were the main people thought to have killed David and Hannah. The cops didn't think Mao was up to no good, because he had already left the 2 guys before they were killed. The cops thought that no one knew what Wo and Zorin did when they were left alone. Since the 2 suspects didn't speak Thai, the police didn't call for official translators. Instead, they used Burmese food vendors to figure out what the men were saying. This was pretty much how they talked to each other. The police would ask questions in Thai, and the Burmese food seller, who also spoke Thai, would tell the suspects what they needed to know in Burmese. The suspects would then answer in Burmese. There was some doubt about how well it worked to question murder suspects, but the police got what they wanted. They told the truth. Wio and Zor Lin struck David and Hannah and then killed them. The police were able to arrest the 2 guys after they confessed. The case finally broke. 2 people were caught, and the Thai government was very pleased with how the police managed the situation. The cops say that Zor and Y attacked David and Hannah while they were making out at the beach. The tourists didn't know what was going on. The police even said that the DNA on Hannah's body, the cigarette ends, and the murder tools all match the suspects. On top of that, David's lost cell phone was found in Zar's house. Detectives made the suspects act out the whole scene again in front of the press. There was a strong DNA match between these men and Hannah and David's bodies, so you might think that they killed them. But when a lawyer from Myanmar visited the suspects in jail, he took one look at them, and his anger at the police filled his whole body. The men got beat up really badly. Zor and Y took back what they said and admitted that they had been forced to say they had killed the person. The Thai police were responsible for their terrible treatment. Every day they beat them and left them in a cold room without clothes. If they didn't confess, they threatened to torture them in other cruel ways. Burmese people who lived there also came forward and looked just as sad. When it came to illegal immigrants, the cops were terrible and treated them like trash. After the mass DNA tests, many Burmese people also showed signs of being abused. This really shows how the cops felt about illegal immigrants, which is why they were so focused on them from the start, even though they had no reason to think the crime was committed by someone who wasn't a legal resident. You start to wonder if the people in jail for murder are really guilty, or are Thai police blaming Burmese refugees for the crime to hide the fact that they were the ones who killed Hannah and David. As the world turned, there was a lot of talk and anger. At first, everyone thought that the Thai police were using Zor and Y as blame for the deaths of David and Hannah. People all over the world were very angry that the suspects had to play out the murder in front of the media. It was just strange. During the probe, the police chief flatly denied abusing WFIO and Zorin, even though there was strong proof that this was not true. The Thai National Human Rights Commission wanted to look into these claims further, but the cops didn't show up to the meetings 4 times, even though they were called. Things were getting ready for the trial at the same time as all of this. The defense team for Zor and Y came from Bangkok. They wanted more time to look over the evidence and the 900-page police report, but the court said no. This means that the defense had no time to plan how they would defend their clients, who people quickly realized weren't the ones who killed David and Hannah. The 900-page study wasn't even given to the defense until the trial started, which was even stranger. 3 months after David and Hannah's deaths in December 2014, Zor Lin and Weo were each charged with 5 crimes: murder with intent, killing to hide a crime attack, entering Thailand illegally, and staying in the country without permission. Y was also accused of stealing David's phone, even though it was found in Zor Lin's house. If this is true, the cops might have put it there on purpose. We don't know. It's really hard to understand. It started on July 18, 2015, and went on for 18 days. The judge told everyone that they couldn't take notes. The prosecution showed DNA proof, said the suspects were illegal immigrants, and talked about how the murders were done. The prosecution thought that Zor and Y attacked David first and drowned him to death. They then turned their attention to Hannah and killed her with the same murder tools and even forced themselves on her, but the prosecutors couldn't show any witnesses to the crime. On the other hand, the defense said that the suspects were set up and weren't really the killers. The defense said that the police messed up the case from the start, let people mess with the crime scene, and even made big mistakes when they were collecting DNA. The defense said that the cops took advantage of the fact that Zor and Y were illegal immigrants who were easy targets and made them look guilty for a crime they didn't do. According to the defense, Y and Zor went swimming and found that their clothes were gone when they got out. The two of them then walked to Mao's house where CCTV caught them. Regarding the phone, the defense said that Y found an abandoned phone on the beach and chose to keep it, which is why it was found with the 2 men. It was false for police to say that Y was making a run for it on a boat the day he was caught. He was actually going to a different island for a new job. On top of that, the defense didn't have any witnesses during their statements. This was mostly because people were afraid to speak out, because they thought Thai police would punish and torture them if they did. The court ordered 2 more tests on the DNA on July 10th. This is when it was discovered that the DNA on the murder tools did not match either Y's or Zor's. Why would the cops blame 2 innocent people for murder just because they are illegal immigrants? It's crazy to think about it. Jane Topin, an Australian forensic scientist, offered to give her own free report as evidence at the hearing. According to what she said, the investigators rushed the DNA testing process because it was hard and took a long time to collect and identify mixed DNA. However, the detectives had the results in 12 hours. It would have been almost impossible to do this. But in the end, she wasn't allowed to go to the trial because it was thought that foreign experts and their evidence could sway the judge in a way that was unfair and hurt the Thai justice system. Look, we know you're right, and we know we're wrong is another way to say this. but we're still going to do what we want. In the end, on December 24th, 2015, Woe and Zaw Lin were both found guilty of killing Hannah Witheridge and David Miller. They were both given the death penalty, even though new DNA tests showed that they were not guilty. It took the defense twice in 2017 and 2019 to try to overturn the verdict, but each time it failed. They were given death sentences until August 15, 2020. They were then given life sentences in jail. You may ask why. Well, it was the Thai king's birthday, and the choice to change his mind was his way of being kind to Zaw and why, if that's even the right word. It's crazy to think about this whole case. A lot of people around the world didn't like this study. Many people think that the Thai police put two innocent people on trial for David and Hannah's murder because they didn't have lawyers with them when they confessed. They didn't speak the same language, and the DNA tests were a mess. The real killer or killers are still free, and God knows where. To be honest, the people who think this are probably not wrong. According to all the proof, the police knew these men were not the killers, but still put them through a lot of trouble. 10 years have passed since Zaw and Y were found guilty of murder. A lot of people who live on the island think that the detectives are working for the mafia, which runs everything there. Also, many foreign travelers continued to die mysteriously, and unsolved deaths on the island even after David and Hannah were killed. Therefore, it begs the question, is the Thai police force protecting those who do wrong? It's a scary question to ask, and even scarier to think about. When I first offered that we talk about this case, I thought we would just talk about the murders of Hannah and David, who were the two main victims. But after doing more research, I think there are actually 4 victims in this case, and the thief has never been caught. Sadly, this kind of thing doesn't happen only sometimes. When money is involved, people will do the worst things you can think of. As I said before, my whole family used to live in a town that a lot of tourists visit. No one really needed to be told that the cops were hiding crimes just to attract tourists. The year we finally chose to leave town was also the year my wife and I saw 3 bodies for real, and the cops covered up all 3 crimes. Nobody asked for information in a single news story, blog post, or email. It wasn't like the crimes ever took place. At the time, my wife worked for a neighborhood police officer. When she asked for answers, the officer told her, "I can't talk about that." That was the end of the story. We saw 3 bodies for real. There must have been more than that we missed. Another question is, how many killers got away just so tourists would come? After about 2 months, we moved away. David's funeral was on October 3rd, 2014, and Hannah's was on October 10th, 2014. Both of their families were very sad, not only because their loved ones died, but also because of how the investigation was managed. The Thai police did close the case, but no one is sure if the people who are now in jail really did do it. To make things even worse, Hannah's older sister, Laura Daniels, died in 2019 at the age of 30. She was pregnant and died during surgery because of problems. In the worst ways possible, Hannah's mum lost 2 children. Thanks for watching. If this case left you with questions or thoughts, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime content. Share your perspective in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed.